What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have yet another collection update for you. So I was pretty much perusing distros again, this time Nuclear War Nows, and may have only gone there for one or two things and somehow ended up with like 10. Yeah, that's me. That's definitely me. But what the hell? There were some really cool releases there. They had a lot of cool underground stuff that I've been looking for and some stuff that I just happened upon there. And as well as that, also stuff from Bandcamp that I'd ordered a while ago and just stuff that I picked up in stores, and they had kind of a culmination of things. This is a pretty good sized one too, so I'm just going to get right into this one because a lot of stuff, a lot of cool stuff though. Solstice Pray. So their second album originally came out in 1995. This is the 2011 reissue on Thrash Corner / Punishment 18 / Vic Records. Kind of distributed through a lot of different companies here, but this is one I've been looking for a while because I'm a huge fan of their debut, one that Rob Barrett was on. Rob Barrett is not on this one. By this point, he was firmly implanted into Cannibal Corpse, and this is almost as good as the debut. Not quite. I think it's just missing a little bit of the tenacity, but at the same time, this has pretty much all the tenacity you'd want out of a death thrash band. This is chuggy, thrashy riffs left and right. I mean, if you're a fan of Deicide, Malevolent Creation, or Demolition Hammer, it pretty much sits right there. The vocals are pretty much that nice little balance between thrash and death metal. The mix on here is very interesting because the bass is very prominent. Like, you can hear a lot of the bass work very distinctly on here. And my God, the guitar work is just riff after riff, chug after chug, especially the title track and I See Red. Chugmageddon. I'd say it's a little bit more groovy than the debut, but I would not consider this groove metal by any stretch of the imagination. This is pummeling and fast. There's still tons of blast beats. There's tons of thrash gallops left and right. Now, this does contain the 2011 remix of the album, and honestly, I like the original one more because I think they compressed the guitars more on the 2011 version, and I kind of like that dirty 90s guitar tone. Like, it just sounds kind of sizzly and, you know, again, not very compressed. Like, I don't know, it kind of adds to the dirtiness. It's death thrash. It should be absolutely filthy. But the 2011 remix isn't bad. Again, I just kind of like the lack of compression. But yeah, if you've never heard this I would say is a death thrash classic. Maybe not as much as they debut, but it's still a damn good album. I still love this band. Their new album was pretty solid too, but yeah, right here, damn good stuff. Check it out. Sadistic Torment, Anthrophagy. This is the debut album from this Finnish death metal act. Came out on La Caveriva Records? Carivera? I don't know. It's kind of hard to make out with the print that's on there. I think it's Carivera? I don't know. Anyway, this is the debut album from this band. This is Finnish death metal. Actually features the bassist and frontman of Morbific on here, but he's playing guitars. And this is just filthy old school death metal, emphasis on filth. This has a very raw, almost kind of punky feel to it. And actually that kind of works well with like their style of death metal because it gives it like an old school death grind sort of feel. Lots of very thrashy sections, loads of big, groovy, memorable hooks. And I gotta say, this is way more melodic and way more technical than I expected, just judging by the cover. I was thinking I was gonna get like some very raw, autopsy, riddled, filthy death metal. I still did get that, but again, technical and melodic, especially the song Disease-Ridden Pervert, which, yeah, these song titles are pretty damn fun. Lust for Scum, Run Over and Left to Die, Neurosyphilitic Lunacy. I mean, they had some serious fun with this, and I mean, honestly, if you have a weird album cover like that and you're not having fun, I think you're doing it wrong. While the production is a little bit on the muddy side, I really, really dig this. I think Morbific might be a little bit better. It's a little bit more straightforward. This is just kind of wild and fun and kind of a surprise. Like, I kind of just went by the album cover, I jammed a track and it sounded pretty good, and then I got a lot more variety than I was expecting. So yeah, if you've never jammed this band, I recommend it. Have fun with the song titles. They're just ridiculous. But yeah, fun and death metal and gory ridiculousness. Check it out. Ruinous, Graves of Ceaseless Death. So the debut album from this New Jersey-based death metal act / death doom. Came out in 2017 on Dark Descent, and this features members and ex-members of Funebrum, Incantation, and Disma. And it kind of sounds like all those put together. This is bleak, cavernous, I guess death metal, but it still has death doom moments on it, like a pretty fair amount. But this also has like moments that, of course, definitely sound like Incantation, but mix that with Bloodbath. You get a little bit of that D-beat fury. The guitar tone, while it's kind of sludgy, it has a little bit of that HM2 just kind of in there a little bit. There's a little extra crunch to it. The production on here is heavier than hell. Like, this is just a massive sounding album. The guitars and those insane vocals just kind of dominate this, but in a good way. You can still hear everything just fine on here. It's mixed really well, separated. And I gotta say, the second to last track, Through Stygian Catacombs, 11 and a half minutes of death doom glory. That is a bleak monster of a song. But I like how you get that, and then, you know, a song like Transfixed on the Gate. The second track is like pretty much D-beat fury. It does have a cool death doom section on it, but this is just a flat out nasty, heavy, punishing, bleak listen. And, you know, I'm a sucker for anything that kind of sounds remotely like Incantation, and this actually has an ex-member of Incantation in it. So yeah, it was kind of easy to fall in love with this. This is an absolutely awesome debut. I'm psyched if they actually put out a follow-up to this. I would love to hear more stuff like this, because this is pretty much everything I love about death metal and death doom right here. So if you've never jammed Ruinous, I strongly recommend checking this out. It is a damn good debut, and again, I'm looking forward to more from this band. Check it out. Obscene, The Inhabitable Dark. This is the debut album from this Indiana-based death metal act. Came out on Blood Harvest Records, and this actually features ex-Demericus guitarist Mike Morgan, who I'm a big fan of his work in Demericus. That was an awesome, short-lived band, unfortunately. But this is some straightforward, old-school death metal, riff-centric, kind of meat and potatoes. Like, this loves the big obituary grooves, kind of jungle rod-ish, but with a little bit more like a murky atmosphere to it. The vocals on here are really interesting for the style. The more I listened to them, the more it kind of reminded me of like some halfway step between Jake Bannon from Converge. The vocals kind of sound like it's like kind of a cupped microphone. I don't want to make that gesture, that looks weird. But also Martin Van Drunen from Asphyx and Pestilence. It's weird. It's very throaty, very dry, but it also kind of sounds like he's cupping the mic a bit to give it kind of that hardcore delivery. It's very interesting. Like, it's kind of different in terms of some of the death metal I've been listening to here lately. But this is pretty much based on groove and riffs, so I would say very comparable to Bolt Thrower, except, you know, more about like goblins and demons and shit. It does occasionally bring the blast beats, like the song This Is He Who Kills, a little bit more up-tempo, but most of this kind of stays in the nice groovy pocket. You just want to bang your head to it, and I absolutely love that about this release. It's pretty much no breaks, nothing really extra in the way of like atmosphere or like anything kind of really outside of death metal, except for the very end of the title track, which is like piano outro, which I mean, honestly, it doesn't sound like it needed to be there, but it still was really cool. But the rest of this is just straightforward as hell, and I really dug that. So yeah, if you like straightforward, just groove-laden death metal, definitely check this out. This is a solid album. Mortuary, Blackened Images. This is their 1990 debut album. This is actually reissued on Moon Records in 2018. I actually saw this band at MDF in 2019. This is a Mexican death thrash act, and it is raw and dirty as hell. This is even a reissue and probably a remaster, and it still sounds very raw. In fact, I'm not the biggest fan of the way the drums sound on here, especially the bass drum. It's kind of a lackluster thud, but I like the music. This is like that very early proto death metal sound, you know, that kind of thrash sound that was still kind of pushing towards death metal, hence the term death thrash. Very similar to bands like Morbid Saint or Possessed. Like, it's still kind of foot in both camps. And I like the guitar tone because it sounds kind of squawky and dirty. It really reminds me a lot of Hell Awaits, and I think that's one of the most underrated albums in Slayer's whole discography. Granted, they have a lot of killer ones, but Hell Awaits, if it reminds me of Hell Awaits, there's a damn good chance I'll dig it. The pace of this album is fast as hell. I really like the vocals on it. There's some really interesting production things on here. The song Reign of Dead, it sounds like there's a needle drop on a record before the song actually plays, which makes me wonder if they just recorded it from a vinyl rip. I don't know. And some of the song titles, I mean, granted, you know, maybe lost in translation. The second track, Sick-ish Disease, really not committing to being sick. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird name for a song there, just in terms of just being sick-ish. Like, it just sounds like a wordy version of a minor cold. But this was pre-COVID, so there may be less to worry about then. This is a short album. It is under a half an hour, which, you know, kind of brings me back to Slayer again, you know, Rain of Blood being under a half an hour, but it is packed full of riffs, it's packed full of energy, and it has that old school kind of 80s evil vibe to it, where it's like, yeah, it's evil, but this is still a lot of fun. There's a nice level of camp to it. Really enjoyed this. Super glad I found this. I'm going to see if I can find more of their albums, just because they kind of sold me on a live performance years ago, and I saw this in the distro, and I was like, well, hell, I got to check this out. So yeah, it's awesome, and you should check it out. Eructation, the Fumes of Putrefaction. This is a compilation of demos and recording sessions from this defunct Swedish death metal band. This was all pretty much done circa 1992 to 1995, and man, I really wish these guys recorded an album, because the first 4 tracks, I believe, are the 92 demo, and holy shit, they sound great. Now, granted, I imagine Memento Mori, who reissued this, probably did like a remastered job on them. It doesn't matter, the songwriting is absolutely fantastic, and this isn't like the Swedish death metal you think of with like Entombed and Dismember. This is a little bit closer to Seance. Seance kind of embodied more of that thrashy, like more American style, like the Floridian stuff, Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, Deicide. These guys kind of latch onto that. Very technical, lots of melody, very prominent bass work too, and the bass work's really good, especially in the song Failed Humankind. I really love the old school, like 90s death metal growls. I think on the 95 stuff, it's a little bit different. They become a little bit deeper, but overall, I think his delivery is great. You can actually make out what he's saying, and it still sounds gruff as hell. And again, the songwriting in here is really fantastic. I'm surprised this band didn't put out like a full length or something like that. I mean, I know like shit happens, you break up for whatever reason. I don't know what happened with this band actually, but I feel like this would have been like an underground like 90s death metal classic if they had put this all together and kind of just tracked it at the same time, because all these songs are absolutely whoop ass. First exposure to this band, I pretty much just looked up their bio, I jammed one of the tracks, and yeah, sold me right away. This is absolutely killer stuff. If you've never jammed this band, much like I had never jammed this band before, and you love 90s death metal, I think you will totally enjoy this. So yeah, definitely check this out. This is some great 90s death metal, and holy shit, I'm so glad I actually found this. So yeah, check it out. Cruentus, Night Embrace Me. This is the debut album from this 2-man Blackened thrash act from Sweden. And again, this was one I kind of just picked up on a whim, just checked out, you know, a song. And this is kind of not what I expected. I forget which track I jammed, but honestly, I think this is a little bit more towards the black metal side, almost to the point where you can just call it black metal, but there are some thrash influences. There's definitely some punk influence, but it's interesting. The songs that are a bit longer on here definitely scream way more black metal. And there's even like kind of folky melodies on Blurred Visions and Wonders, but a lot of this doesn't have like that flat out thrash energy, that sort of in your face, you know, fuck you dead, I worship Satan sort of attitude. It kind of screams more like depressive, solemn. The atmosphere is, again, way more on the black metal side. Like it feels a little bit more cold and grim and all those adjectives. It's kind of missing the thrashy side of it. And it had some issues with the production. It feels kind of dry and empty. It could use like a little bit more reverb. Some of the vocals are odd, and some of the song titles are odd. A Fist from Within. Unfortunately, the internet ruined me years ago, so I kind of giggled at that one, and that probably wasn't meant to be giggled at, but I'm broken, so yeah. But overall, this is a good album. It's just not what I expected. Again, a little bit more on the black metal side. Not really an issue there, but it was advertised as Blackened Thrash, and Blackened Thrash is one of my favorite fusions, and well, you probably have found out, you know, just watching the Blackened Thrash underrated albums thing I did. This kind of embodies mostly just one side of it, and I'm kind of missing that thrash section. But I would definitely check out more by this band, because as just a more black metal act, I think they're pretty damn solid. So yeah, definitely check this out. It's, again, a little bit more on the black metal side, but it's still really good, still packed with melodies, and still recommend you check it out. Church of Disgust, Invocation of Putrid Worship. This is their second demo. This is a re-release on Krenko Necro Records. Never heard of that one. But this is some filthy old school death metal featuring ex-members of Imprecation and current members of Malignant Altar and Necrofire. And I actually picked up their last EP. It came out on Maggot Stomp. I absolutely loved it. Just great old school death metal, loads of D beats. It's just riffy as hell. This is that, except the first half of this is really rough sounding. Like, I like murky, muddy death metal. I honestly think that's how it should be, but you can be too muddy, and I think that is what I got in here. The guitars, I think, are too muddy. The drums are really out front and really loud in the mix. So, as much as I like the music, which again, gritty, old school death metal, lots of autopsy worship, the production was kind of rough. But when I got down to the other demos, the last 3 tracks in here, they kind of lightened up a little bit, and it kind of just sounded like it was jammed in a room, and that actually sounded better. The guitars weren't as muddy. The bass was more distinct because the bass and guitars were both like tuned so low and with the distortion just cranked way the fuck up. You couldn't really make out anything. You know, you just knew it was heavy, but indistinct, and that's kind of an issue. This, they're distinct, they're separated, and I think it makes the songs sound a lot better. Because I love this band style. It's awesome, gritty, dirty, filthy death metal, and that is definitely my wheelhouse. Though despite the production, I have to say the song 7 Sigils of the Infinite Void, huge, like, mental funeral vibes on that one, and super well written, just ugly but dynamic song. I definitely recommend checking this out. Again, the production might be, you know, a little bit too much in some aspects, but it's still really solid music. And again, if you get this version, check out the last 3 tracks. The demo's the same songs, and I think it sounds a lot better. It has more of a live feel to it, and I think you can make out all the individual cool things that they're doing in each song. Definitely check out Church of Disgust, though. I plan on getting more by that band because I really dig them ever since I heard that EP from Maggot Stomp. I gotta have more. It's just damn good. So yeah, expect to see more of this band on here. Check it out. Blasphamagoatachrist, Bastardizing the Purity. This is the debut album from this international black and death metal band. I believe it features members from Canada and Brazil. And it's pretty much as ridiculous as the name, but it actually has a weird origin because the members of the band are from Blasphemy, Antichrist, and Goat Penis, which I forgot was a band up until I looked into this one. So they pretty much just combined all their names to make one ridiculous word, and I mean, it kind of has to be. And I'm going to read off the band member names because they have some incredible stage names. Let's see, the drummer is Incinerator of Lacerated Angels and Coffin Destruction. The guitarist, Tyrant Vergus of the Arcane Rites of Bloodlust. It's a lot of responsibility. Vocalist, Nocturnal Graves Desecrator and Black Winds. He's both of those things. And the bassist, who sadly died in February of 2021, rest in peace, Sabaoth of the Blood Moon Powerlifting Legion. That's the best one, I think. That is the most ridiculous one. It sounds like a satanic workout club. So that was pretty much the big draw on this one. It was kind of, you know, just there, and I think they had it marked down. I was like, well, why the hell not? And honestly, the most fun aspect is kind of the ridiculous over the top, like, you know, names and like, that's about it, honestly. It's kind of just straightforward black and death metal. It's really raw, very underproduced or overproduced, made to sound extra muddy and murky. The guitars are kind of indistinct. The vocals are kind of like a uniform bellow. And honestly, there's not much of a distinction between songs. They kind of all run together, but it's kind of a fun altogether. So, you know, not necessarily the worst thing. The vocals do occasionally remind me of Vader or Behemoth every now and then, and this absolutely does not skimp on any aggression whatsoever. And I kind of gotta feel like this was like some intentional camp here, like there was a checklist, like, all right, is it absolutely ridiculous with all the names and imagery? Oh yeah, we got that. Okay, cool. Is it just frantic? The music's just nuts pretty much all the times. Oh yeah, no, that's definitely there too. All right, now is it poorly recorded and intentionally sounds like it was recorded in Satan's butthole? Absolutely. And all of those things kind of make it endearing and fun. Musically, it's okay. I don't know if I'd return to it for anything other than to bring up this band because they have ridiculous stage names and it's just sort of ridiculous one-note blackened death metal. But honestly, I mean, that's a good enough reason because it's just fun, ridiculous, and dumb, but the fun kind of dumb. Like, not like, you know, Five Finger Death Punch dumb. This is actually somewhat endearing and sort of ridiculous. I recommend checking this out. You know, it's, you know, again, kind of a one-note thing, but it's fun, and I think you should check it out just for that reason. That, and it's just fun saying all those ridiculous band member names. I mean, I don't think anyone has more metal names at this point. Those might be the most metal names in metal right now. Either way, check it out. It's ridiculous. Have fun with it. Antediluvian, The Divine Punishment. This is the third album from this Canadian blackened death metal band. This came out this year, and I think this was like a bonus they added on. There was a CD that I had ordered. They didn't have any copies, so I told them that you could just take it off, and maybe they just sent me this as an apology, which, thank you, guys. That's really cool. This is very strange. I want to start off with this saying, God damn it, Portal, you are influencing too many bands. And this is definitely one of them because this is absolutely batshit crazy, avant-garde, blackened death metal that is designed to terrify you and mystify you. I have so many questions, like namely some of the song titles. I'm going to read them off just because I had to write them down and they didn't print them on the back. Okay, we have Winged Ascent Unto the Winged Solar Anus. Okay, I got nothing on that one. Obscene pornography manifests in the divine universal consciousness. I mean, that seems kind of wordy just to say the internet or Pornhub, but okay. And one of my favorites here, How the Watchers Granted the Humans Sex Magic in the Primordial Eon. That was something they did for us. I have so many questions about this. This pretty much defies song structure. It kind of goes all over the place. There are moments in here that are riffy and kind of like, you know, Immolation and Morbid Angel-ish, but a lot of it is cavernous noise. There's weird extra percussion here and there, like in between drum beats, it sounds like they're just beating on wood blocks, which they might be. I looked at pictures of the band and they definitely have an interesting theme. I just don't get this. Like, this is still kind of outside of my wheelhouse. I appreciate them sending this to me, but this is just fucking weird. I mean, honestly, probably the biggest connection I had on this was that incantation style apocalyptic riffing, which is at least familiar to me, but this is a really long album. This is over an hour of maddening, insane noise designed to make you uncomfortable as shit. Now, I haven't jammed anything else of theirs, so I really don't know what they sound like previous to this, but I'm kind of terrified to actually go backwards because this is, again, kind of that Portal realm where it's just designed to make you feel uncomfortable. At least that's what I think. I mean, to them, this might be the most beautiful music ever written. I don't know. It's very strange. It's very dissonant. I don't even think I need to say that word. This is that. And this after reviewing Veilburner. Veilburner sounds decidedly more hooky and normal than this. And believe me, that band is on another level of dissonance and chaotic songwriting, but they know how to craft some hooks. There are very few hooks on here just in terms of like just the earworms, the stuff that'll make you come back to it. This is just weird. It is just a weird album, and I don't quite get it, but if you're looking for a challenging listen and you don't already own Portal's last album or any other albums, go ahead and check this one out. See what it does for you. I don't know if I'm going to come back to it. I don't know. I might get bored and just try it again, but this is weird. But check it out. Just because. Just check it out. Altars, Paramnesia. It's the 2013 debut from this Australian death metal band. These guys actually broke up in 2016, but have thankfully reformed because this is fucking awesome. This is very much Morbid Angel worship, but I don't really have a problem with that because I love Morbid Angel. And it's an interesting sort of mishmash of both the Steve Tucker era and the David Vincent era. Very riff-centric, love the slow, sludgy songs and interesting breakdowns, especially the song Kazne, which I don't know what that is, but I know I like the song. It's somewhere between Formula's Fatal to the Flesh and Blessed Are the Sick. Like, it has the sludgy riffs that are on Blessed Are the Sick, but it has the more like fast-paced, just hefty aggression that is on Formula's Fatal to the Flesh. Pretty much this checks off all the things I like about death metal. You got slow, lumbering grooves, big, droning, sludgy riffs, giant pockets of blast beats. They even squeeze in a drum solo here and there. And God, it's just dripping with atmosphere. It has a nasty, evil feel, and the sound, of course, lurks in the 90s. You have some really cool melodies that are very similar to Immolation, which is yet another band I love. So you sound like two bands I love. So yeah, this was pretty much going to win me over. I heard a lot of people talk about this band and say, hey, if you like Morbid Angel, you'll like this band. You guys are right. All of you, whoever said it. This is awesome, flat out Morbid Angel worship, but done so damn well. Strongly recommend checking this out. It's just absolutely nasty. Check it out. Craven Idol, Towards Eschaton, or Eschaton, I don't know how to say that word. Anyway, this is the first album from this UK-based black and thrash metal act. They just came out with an album this year that flat out is fucking awesome. I'm still jamming the hell out of this. And I decided this was the lone full length that I was missing from theirs. I still need one of their EPs. But this is absolutely awesome black and thrash with a little bit of death metal in it. So it gets extra gritty and heavy every now and then. But the thing I like about this band is these guys like writing longer songs with lots of dynamics, but they never lose that thrashy edge. And when they're dialing up the Blackened atmosphere, man, it really, really sounds like Dissection. I love the vocals on here. They're extra fucking dramatic. Like, he's just screaming and hollering, and it really just kind of adds to the overall fun of this. And when these guys want to, they can just dial up like ridiculous thrashy fun, especially the song Left to Die. A little bit of Slayer and Venom worship in there. And I love that nasty old school feel to it. They pretty much dial up all the Slayer they can on the last track, Orgies, which, I mean, orgies are supposed to be fun. I was never invited to one, but I hear they're fun, and Slayer's fun. So why not have both? Slayer orgy. You guys know where to get a hold of me. Anyway, this is definitely more raw than their most recent album, which I absolutely love, but I love this one for kind of different reasons. They both sound similar, but this one just feels a little bit more rough around the edges, and I like it for that. But I strongly recommend anything by Craven Idol. These guys absolutely whoop ass. I have their second album too, pretty solid as well, but this one I think is a bit better, and the new one is flat out incredible. So yeah, just go out and get all their shit because they're fucking good. So check them out. Disaster, Churches Without Saints. This is the newest album from this German black and thrash act that I brought up in my underrated albums for black and thrash. I am still a big fan of this band, and you know, this new album is really good. Definitely a little bit more tame than some of their early releases, but I mean, these guys have been around for a while. This is their 9th album overall, and it gets off to a really punky start. And the vocals, I think, are good. I really like his over-the-top delivery. It's one of my favorite things about black and thrash sometimes, is that sort of wild snarl sometimes. I think the vocal production is a little odd. It feels very dry and very exposed. They don't use a lot of effects or any reverb on it, and they're really kind of out front in the mix. I feel like they're a little bit too clear. Like, they need to be somewhat muffled, or, you know, just a little bit more grating somehow. Just kind of, you know, rough them up a bit. But something I noticed in this is a little less furious, like in terms of like their back catalog. These guys like to fly at all times. It's fast, it's thrashy, and you get blast beats in there. But this one takes a little bit more of a mid-tempo approach on a good chunk of this, and it kind of feels a little bit more tame. I do like the fact that the title track has some really cool nods to like the second wave black metal stuff, but again, it feels, again, like less intense. It does pick up its intensity on here with the song Hellputa, which It might be Hellbitch in Spanish. I don't know. But it does pick up the intensity again. It gets thrashy and punky again. But I think this is a pretty solid album. I've heard some of the earlier albums where it just sounded fresh and intense. This sounds a little bit more calmed down and maybe not necessarily like more refined, like they're going for anything else outside of their sound. It just sounds like a calmed down version of them. But it's still really good. It's still riffy as hell, and it's still black and thrash, and I still absolutely love that shit. So I strongly recommend checking this out. Another solid album from these guys. A little bit more calm, but still pretty solid black and thrash. Check it out. Iotuun, Access All Worlds. This is the debut album from this Danish progressive melodic death metal act, and actually features the frontman from Barren Earth on vocals. And this is pretty much as advertised, melodic death metal with fierce progressive influences. I think this is like a little bit more like old school prog. Like musically, when it came down to like how they're structuring their songs, it's not like super technical, so you don't expect like BT Bamish anything in there. This is more like a melodic death metal band embracing like Fate's Warning and Queensryche and all that stuff. The vocals are really good, but sometimes a bit much on the clean side, where the cleans will go up and get really soaring. Sometimes it's a little bit too epic, but the vocal flips are really cool. This guy has 3 very distinct vocal deliveries. His cleans, which are very soaring, kind of classic prog, almost kind of power metal-ish. Then you have his like nice, deep melodic death metal roars, very intelligible, still very gritty, and then almost kind of like a kind of hardcore, almost kind of like sludge metal bellow / roar, which is kind of sitting in between the other two. Very interesting, and how he flips around is really cool. The music on here is gorgeous. These guys just went straight for the melodies, and these are hook-laden songs left and right. And they're absolutely huge. The song Ways Below, like the melodies there are absolutely just hook-laden as hell. That one will probably get stuck in my head out of all these. And most of these songs run a little bit longer, as they should, because they're prog. But again, they don't like kind of noodle about. Everything kind of serves the song. It's all about building tension, making these big epic songs. So well done. But yeah, this came out a while ago. We thought about reviewing it, and then just didn't get around to it because there was a whole bunch of other stuff coming out. But this is absolutely awesome. I really dig this. Probably should have reviewed it. This is a really interesting listen. I like their approach. The blend is really solid. And yeah, I definitely want to hear more from this band in the future. So yeah, if you're looking for some really interesting progressive metal, definitely check this out. Misery Index, Coffin Up the Nails. This is a compilation of B-sides and demos from one of my favorite death grind bands ever. And this came out this year, and pretty much there's a good chunk of the stuff that I had, at least on other albums, but it was cool to actually find them all in here. The covers on here are fucking awesome. Opens up with a new cover of When Glory Beckons, Bolt Thrower off of one of my favorite Bolt Thrower albums, For Victory, and they absolutely nail it. They cover Snapcase, Nail Bomb, Sepultura, and I think they cover Ministry. Yep, they do a sort of medley, Thieves of the New World. So they cover Thieves and then New World Order, except they grind it the fuck out. That entire song is 2 minutes long. So grind as fuck. I pretty much bought this for the covers. It does have a remix of their one-off song from their live album, Siberian, which is absolutely awesome, and I like the remix. It's a little bit clearer. But one of the things I really ended up loving in here were the demo versions of Ghost of Catalonia, Thrown into the Sun, and Traitors from the album Traitors. That's one of my favorite albums by them, and those demos are all instrumental, so it's a really cool chance to actually just hear every single riff when, you know, they're not bellowing all the hatred for a lot of shit at you. It was just really cool to hear those more raw demos. They sound a lot different than they do in the album, but I really just dug the hell out of them. Strongly recommend this if you're a big Misery Index nut and you want to collect all the stuff. I mean, if you're not like, you know, a big collector of them, I mean, there's still some stuff I would say definitely get. The cover of Primitive Future alone, fuck, awesome. But yeah, definitely check this out. Misery Index rules. Can't wait for a new studio full length from them whenever they get around to it. But for now, I'm definitely going to be spending this a lot. So yeah, check it out. Skepticism Companion. This is the 6th full length from these Finnish funeral doom legends that literally I am just now hearing of. For some odd reason, I have not really picked up on this band. I know that they are respected as pretty much pioneers of funeral doom. This is my first exposure to them, and I can definitely hear why, because this is really, really good. For a funeral doom album, this is actually kind of short at like under 50 minutes, but it is packed to the brim full of the most gloomy but beautiful sounding funeral doom. This is one of those things I guess you can describe as like epically depressed, because the sound on here is so lush. I love the production. Everything is very full on here. The keys add a lot of atmosphere because most of the time they forego a lot of like the straightforward synths. They kind of go with like giant church organ effects. And of course, that's ideal for a giant funeral dirge, which that is this album. It is one giant dirge with giant size riffs. One thing I really liked about this is, generally with funeral doom, it's just, you know, dark and depressive, very sullen. But these guys can get flat out like just heavier than hell and oppressive. The song Passage, heaviest track on here, I think. It's just the weight of the world coming down on you with just blunt force trauma, like just being slowly crushed by a giant fucking rock. I don't know, I'm really not thinking of great comparisons right now, but that's kind of what it feels like. But on the other hand, like at the same time, during these massive sections, there are gorgeous melodies on there. So I don't know, you're kind of like a mishmash of emotions, but they're all the dark, depressing ones. So just all the various stages. Awesome listen. I have to go back. I have to go find more of Skepticism because this is really, really good. I don't know, could be in a year-end list. The more I keep listening to it, the more I really like it. I don't know, my year-end list is getting pretty full, but I really dig this. And if you love Funeral Doom, it's probably a good chance you already knew about this band because, I don't know, somehow I missed them, but I'm not missing them anymore. This is damn good. Go check it out. Whitechapel The Valley. This is the 7th album from these Knoxville deathcore, pretty much titans, I guess we can call them that. I mean, they're one of the most well-known deathcore acts out there. I actually slept on this one for a while, and I kept hearing it was really good. I kind of been out of deathcore for a while, so I decided, well, fuck it, I'm going to pick it up because we'll probably end up reviewing the new one when it drops. And holy shit, this is really good. I slept on this one. First things first, I gotta bring up Phil Bozeman's clean vocals. He does a really good job on here, and he also sounds a lot like Maynard James Keenan. He has that sort of breathy delivery, and his intonation is almost spot on, like very, very, very close, but the way he's able to flip between that voice and the Phil Bozeman we pretty much all know if we've been listening to Whitechapel. Yeah, it's a pretty impressive flip. There's a lot I like about this. The fact that this is based on a lot of true stories from Phil's childhood, I believe that's the whole based on a true story bit. It feels definitely more personal, and I like the fact that this doesn't just sort of echo like the tough guy tropes that, you know, deathcore kind of does, you know, throw out there a lot. This actually feels personal, intimate, and the balance between moods and such in here, like this can go from somber and clean to just bludgeoningly heavy. And the fact that they improved on pretty much all the melodic aspects, I think. I didn't get the one before this just because I did not hear a lot of good things. And at that point, I was kind of getting out of deathcore. I might go back and get that one too, but this I see as an improvement on their sound overall because this is still very recognizable as Whitechapel. It's just different. There are songs here that are almost unrecognizable. Hickory Creek is mostly clean vocals and kind of a more mid-tempo, almost could be just like a heavy rock song that could have been on the radio if it wasn't for a couple of extra parts in there that were probably too heavy for radio. This is a really interesting listen. It's paced well, it's a little bit more groovy. The songs are vastly different from one another often. I really like it. And this actually makes me want to check out this new album even more because I would see this as kind of a benchmark in their career. They have some really killer albums in the past, but this one's good and it's actually different and it stands out from literally everything in their back catalog. So we'll see what they do in this new one. But for now, I really dig this one. This is a solid album, and if you were like me and just kind of slept on this one, I'd say give it a chance. This is a really, really good listen, and it's probably one of the most engaging listens I've had from Whitechapel in a long time. So yeah, definitely check this out. It's really good. Stench Collector. Oh god, how do you say this? Effluviatorium de jour. This is their debut EP. This is a two-man Rhode Island death metal act, and it's just gross old school death metal. And surprise, I like it. Now, I gotta bring up the intro to this because it's gross. I don't know, I hear like samples of kids talking about, I think, eating rats, and there's this chewing whatever sound and slime and filth. It's absolutely repulsive, but it works with the music because as soon as it gets into it, this is very much like just groove laden, old school death metal, touches of like early brutal death metal, so a little bit of that Broken Hope, early Suffocation, Baphomet sort of sound. But I mean, honestly, the all-encompassing 90s death metal sound on this is just fucking great. This is only 16 minutes, and they kind of have one thing that they do, but they do it so damn well. Big riffs, heavy grooves, lots of headbangable stuff. The second track, Gutworm, is just absolutely nasty. You will get caught in that groove. I'm pretty sure of that because I definitely was. My only issue is I think the last two tracks are a little too similar to one another, and the third track should have closed it, Bile Container, which, yeah, this album's gross. I mean, it's called Stench Collector. What a horrible thing to collect. My bathroom collects stenches, and I'm pretty sure it's not happy about it. But that's the only thing I could say that's really negative about this, is I think the third track on here, being the longer track and definitely the more dynamic one, should have closed the show. Other than that, this is an absolutely nasty EP. It's on Redefining Darkness, and that label is fucking killing it right now, at least in my opinion. Strongly recommend checking this out if you're an old school death metal freak like me and you're just looking for something gross and riffy. This is that. Check it out. And finally, we have Undead, Existential Horror. This is an international death metal act, features members from Spain and the UK, and this is kind of an interesting one. It's definitely death metal, but it has elements of some kind of black metal and thrash metal too. Musically, I'd say it's very akin to like just kind of thrashy death metal. I would think bands like Protector or Nunslaughter are very comparable. The vocals are definitely a little bit more on the black metal side, I think. And it just kind of has this sort of mid-register snarl. But riff-wise, this is just thrashy fun. It's a very stripped-down sound. There's not a lot of extra stuff. It just lets the riffs speak, and the riffs are very thrashy and, again, almost Blackened, especially the song Sin and Death. But again, it still feels like a death metal album. And a really cool thing, they actually include some extra live rehearsals of 2 extra tracks on here. And this band sounds pretty badass live, too. Pretty much every second of this is just ridiculously heavy, thrashy, and in your face, and I pretty much love that about it. It's just a bullet train of high-octane death metal, and dude, dig it. Now, I guess this is actually the reissue that's on Redefining Darkness. This originally came out in 2019. This is a 2021 reissue, so you can find a copy of that on Redefining Darkness. But yeah, I recommend this. This is just pretty much fast and aggressive at all times, and I like that. So yeah, definitely check this out. All right. That was a massive collection update. And I'm reasonably sure the battery on here is going to die, so I'm just going to go ahead and go to, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We're also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there'll be a link below. There will also be a link below to our giveaway. We are almost at that 7,500 mark, but when we get there, we are going to give away a stack of 8 CDs, along with the new Cannibal Corpse in there. And all you have to do is comment on the video. Thank you all so much for getting us to this point, and we're looking forward to doing more stuff like this in the future. And it's all due to you guys, so thank you again. And of course, we have t-shirts for sale. If you would like one, hit us up on thrallsofmetal@gmail.com. Send us a message, put shirts in it. We will get you an invoice and hopefully get you a shirt. So with that, I thank you all very much for watching, and we will catch you later.